we were like earlier. We were like, we should just do British accents the whole fucking time.
I'm torn, bro. I'm gonna talk.
Yeah, and I go a little Australian though, so
it is tough.
A lot of Americans
It's
too,
tough.
to be fair. How you guys doing?
Yeah.
I just like saying mate.
Yeah, like mate. And then I still remember the first time you used the term. I think it was in an email to James. You called us legends, and we were both like we both feel accepted. Yeah, we both feel accepted now.
Yeah, dude. So good.
It's great to be here, guys. It's nice to actually see you guys face to face as well, because we've obviously exchanged emails and Instagram messages for a long time, but we've never just like shot the shit in person. So this is cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's been. Dude. I was thinking about that earlier. I went to get some coffee, and I think the first time that we worked together, I know it was on that. Was it Krampus or that church burning design that we never released?
I think
it might have been that church one.
I think it was the church one, dude. Yeah,
I think so, because I remember I was stocking shelves for Frito-Lay, so I was stocking a Walmart with chips. And I was like, this job fucking sucks. And I remember going back and forth with James, and James was going back and forth with you. And we were like, oh, this guy's so fucking good. So to think like it's been like everything's different. Everything.
And that was how long?
That was like 2018?
Wow.
2019.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jesus fucking Christ, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was I want to say it was summer of 2019, and then in December of 2019 is when we did that Krampus design. I think that was the second design that we did.
That's crazy, man.
We got to figure out some way to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We got to figure out some way to put that fucking shirt out. That shirt's so good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, we just need to print it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of out of
that's just
you guys are so used to just doing very like specific films and stuff, to be fair. So I totally get why it doesn't really fit you or sort of Arsenal at the moment, but give it a go, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's because there's other designs that we have that aren't movie specific that we're just sitting on that we just never really released because it was the movie stuff just took off. Once we did your thing design, it just which was right after it was January of 2020. Once we did that one, it just exploded. So it's kind of like
it became really clear that like the point of this has to be horror movies.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So that means that you guys were kind of in your infancy at that stage as well, then, like in terms of movies.
Yeah.
Oh, completely. Oh, completely.
Wait, are you trying to say that you were fucking in your infancy as far as drawing? Because if that's the case, you can fuck right off.
Not in my infancy as in drawing, but in my infancy as like doing it full time. I was still, I think maybe the year before I was working. I mean, I've done so many jobs, dude. I was taking out the trash. I was a bin dude. I was working in warehouses. I worked in a freezer. I worked in a cheese factory. I did fucking
cheese factory. Okay.
Yeah. Conveyor belt.
I bet that smelled great.
It was horrible, dude. I actually cut my head open on this like big stop start button. It had this big like metal sort of framing behind it. And the health and safety in this place was so bad that you had to climb under this conveyor belt to get to the other side. And it was like, what? And you're under this machinery and cables and shit, like trying to duck down to about maybe like 3 feet tall or something. And so then I rose up thinking like I was just past the conveyor belt and hit the corner right in the top of my head with this like big stop sign thing and split, like literally there was flesh coming out of my skull and like blood pissing out of my fucking head.
Jesus fucking
that's
Christ.
Rough, bud.
Also the irony of hitting your head on the stop start button.
Right?
Exactly. Ironically, we did have to stop for the whole day after that, so.
I would hope so. Hope so.
Yeah.
Nah, just walk it off.
I was thinking, was this cheese factory owned by Elon Musk?
Oh, dude. But yeah, I'm so glad those days are over. Like, it's still stressful being self-employed and running this kind of ship yourself. But At least you're not. It's all on your own
yeah.
terms, you know.
Yeah,
For sure.
It's a literal nightmare day to day
Yeah.
of panic and anxiety. And oh no, is the world going to implode? And if so, how the fuck am I going to survive? But I went
No,
to
dude, it's cool. In the Wasteland, we'll just be handing out shirts to all the warlords and shit. We'll be good. We'll be good.
Right? Yeah, we'll exchange T-shirts for gasoline.
Yeah.
In the Mad Max Wasteland. But I went to a buddy of mine's 40th birthday party over the weekend, and that was like the first time I've been social outside of a podcast situation. We're just going to James's house in so long that sitting around listening to other people talk about their jobs, I was like, holy shit, I will take whatever anxiety or stress we have to deal with, because hearing people talk about how shitty their bosses are, or being on call, they work in hospital stuff, so being on call and getting yelled at by surgeons and doctors and all this stuff. I was like, oh my god, fuck that. So
it's always management, dude, as well. I mean, the people that I've worked with, I've worked with some really awesome, amazing people. I've worked with loads of the jobs that I was doing, it was a lot of like Polish immigrants and stuff like that, and Bulgarians and all sorts of stuff. And the general consensus in this country is about how immigrants are destroying the country, and they're all basically like, they don't work and they're fucking lazy and shit. But I met so many...
Same here.
Yeah, right. And I met so many amazing, hardworking people. So it was very enriching in that sense. It was just the fucking bosses, dude. They were all just didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and then you had to foot the bill when they fucked up. That's pretty much what it is every time.
Yeah.
And
that's why they're fucking managers.
Right. Well, and I think, being in those type of jobs for so long, I think it really boils down to the concept of management isn't how to, there's no prerequisite of learning how to problem solve. It's just who can carry out orders and tasks.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's like, James and I were just talking about this before you jumped on. It's like the ability to learn how to problem solve and communicate through problems and work together with other people to solve problems is so lacking, I think, across the board, that those type of environments are just awful to try and make a living in.
That's a really good point. It's always communication. I mean, it could be, English could be your third language, but there's still a way to explain something to someone, or just, show by example. It's not, none of these jobs we were doing was quantum fucking physics. It was just very basic stuff.
Yeah. It's not hard to just not be an asshole.
Yeah. Like I regularly have a taco truck walking distance from my house, and like, they barely speak any English. I barely speak any Spanish, but like, we still have like communication between us, and like, we're cool and friends and shit. Like, there's some of the nicest people I've ever fucking met. Like, they just give me fucking shots and shit. Like,
that's awesome.
They're fucking great. And it's like, I'd way rather hang out with,
tacos and shots. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, dude, right? Yeah, so good. But like, I'd way rather hang out with them than any of the fucking white people that I know. Like, fucking, what the fuck? Like, get the fuck out of here.
That's funny. So I was going to ask, since we're talking about the past, how long have you been doing what you're doing? You know what I mean? Like, where did you start drawing and getting into the stuff that you do? How long has it been?
I've honestly, I guess for some people it might be hard to pinpoint, but for me, the only reason it is because it's for as long as I can remember, really. I was just so obsessed. I think the first sort of things I did when I was really young was copying frames from Batman comics or something like that. So just freehand copying stuff. I think my mum still has the first drawing I did, and it was the bat symbol. But for like maybe a 6-year-old kid, it was like she was amazed at it, the fact it was accurate. Like, it wasn't just a kid's drawing of a bat. And even I was shocked when I saw it. It was like, whoa, that's crazy. But
it's not like, oh, we're gonna put this on the fridge. It was like, no, this is good. This is fucking, this is dope.
Yeah, so yeah, for as long as I can remember, and then as I kind of, I think in school I was the same. I didn't get on in school very well. All my teachers were just checked out. I come from like a working class family, so being creative was like a pipe dream anyway. It was like, you have to study and do this and just get out and work as soon as you're 16 years old. But I kind of did all of that
Damn.
stuff, but always drew at home and at school. And I just never stopped. From then, I started collecting my own comics and stuff. So then that just opened a whole new world for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of fragmented when I try and trace back, like, day one to now. But that's essentially how I started.
I mean, that's
awesome.
how you know it's meant to be, right? Like, you can't fucking stop. You know what I mean? You have to keep drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you pinpoint when you got into horror?
So, yeah. So basically it was comics and then like our metal covers that my dad had. I didn't have a great relationship with my dad, but he had a fucking amazing taste in music and films. So he would let me look at his record collection. And then he showed me Hellraiser really young. I think I was like 8 when I saw Hellraiser. And I don't get why he allowed me to watch that shit. I think he just saw that I just loved anything that had gore and anything that had special effects in it,
Hell yeah.
So
that's awesome.
I'd say 8 years old, I watched Hellraiser. And he had one of these... do you remember picture discs? Obviously, they're not from our generation, but they were like these big, almost vinyl-sized discs that you would put into like a player, into like a projector. So it was like having record album size covers for films. So he had like The Howling.
Oh, okay.
He had The Howling and War of the Worlds and all this other sort of stuff. So that was just fucking cool to see, like really big format covers of like films.
Yeah,
I remember seeing The Howling, and then I watched the film The Howling, and that fucking blew me away as well, because it's quite an underrated film, but the special effects in that film are so good.
Oh yeah,
they are. How old are you, by the way?
I'm gonna be 36 on Sunday.
Okay.
So
that's right. Your birthday.
Okay, happy birthday.
Yeah. So yeah, like we're both. Well, I'm 39. James, you're 38, I think. So it's in the same vicinity.
Oh, thank God! 2 more years. I'm good.
yeah. So I was gonna say, like, your mention of your dad letting you watch Hellraiser early. Like, I think 80s parents were just fucking different. 80s and early 90s, it was just different.
They didn't give
I watched
a fuck,
The Crow.
Dude.
No, dude, they didn't give a shit. Mine was letting me watch Halloween and Monster Squad and Nightmare on Elm Street and all this stuff.
Well, and even when they did give a fuck, like my mom gave a fuck. Speaking of Batman, my mom wouldn't let me watch the first Batman with Joker because he fell into the acid vat. But she totally let me watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, where like a dude's face fucking melts off.
Yeah.
I was like, so you know what? All right, fair. That's fair.
I watched The Crow yesterday for the first time in ages. And I was like, what year did this come out again? And I looked it up. I was like, oh yeah, 94. And I distinctly remember renting it with my mom and watching it. And I was 9 years old, and I'm watching it and I'm going, at 9? Like, there's some heavy shit in this movie.
I liked it at 9. You're like, Mom, you're fucking
alcohol
up.
abuse.
Yeah, rape, murder, like all of this stuff. And I'm like maybe, like, obviously it was good because we're here, but at the same time, I'm like, geez, man, like, this heavy concepts for a fucking 9-10-year-old to try and wrap your brain around.
I find even the cartoons that that we had for our children time back then was so much more darker and intelligently written as well, dude. Like the old Marvel, like Spider-Man, the Batman, the animated series is just one of my all-time favorites as well. Like, so sick, and so moody and dark.
Yeah,
like that was another huge inspiration.
It really was.
Me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't be able to get away with that stuff now. I mean, some of the subject matter, even in that, like now it would just be just loads of like colorful fucking telly like baby characters making bloopy fucking noises and shit.
Yeah. I remember how much I used to annoy the fuck out of my mom because every time we went to the video store, I had to rent Rambo the animated series. on tape every weekend, every weekend. And because like back then, like VHSs were so expensive to buy.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, they were crazy. So it was like, every weekend it was Transformers and Rambo, the animated series, for some reason.
I don't think I ever saw Rambo.
You've seen them now, right?
The animated series. I mean, I've never seen the animated series.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I see you guys almost canceling the whole meeting right then.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was like, I guess that kind of makes sense. It is a very American concept.
No, it's great. The first two films are fucking amazing.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah,
come on. The third one is fucking insane.
Yeah, I still have a Rambo animated VHS, and it's open at the bottom. But yeah, it's still got the original shrink wrap on it.
What's it called? The
Disaster in Delgado.
Wow.
Yeah, he goes to Mexico and fights a warlord named Nomad. And
it's a very Hispanic name, Nomad.
Right? And yeah, I guess rescues a bunch of kids. So for ages,
and he shoots a bunch of kids. Okay, cool, cool.
But what's funny,
Rambo shoots a bunch of kids?
No,
rescues Anakin. And I bet there's lots of really questionable racist Mexican accents in the show as well.
Right. But like what's funny is as we're talking about differences in the 80s, ages 5 and up.
There you go. There's fucking cocaine in there, fucking machine guns. Yeah, 5 years up, that's fine.
Yeah. Rambo versus the cartels. Ages 5 and up.
We gotta let these kids know about cartels.
That's so fucking funny. So one of the other things I wanted to ask you is, are you still doing work for what record label was it? Was it Century or Century Media?
Oh no, Unique Leader Records.
That's right, Unique Leader Records.
I was sort of an in-house artist for a while, but then I just got I basically then got approached to do tattoos. So then I was just doing too much essentially, but I love Jamie at the label and everyone that I worked with there. It was really cool. And really, a lot of the bands that I worked with through Unique Leader, I kind of did a lot of album covers before I even joined the label. So I'd already kind of built those sort of relationships and stuff. And even still after, still get lots of requests from bands in that scene. So I kind of figured I could juggle both without being tied to anything and then getting stressed out with doing too much,
Right. Yeah, dude. James and I have always kind of like noticed over the course of the last, it's been 5 years, you have done a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of different things and going in different directions and stuff. It's cool to see.
Yeah, I kind of sometimes think it's to my own detriment, I think, though. I mean, we all kind of, I suppose we always analyze what we do, and we're very self-critical, especially when you're creative. But yeah, I kind of find even stylistically I was doing too much. So especially when I got approached to do tattoos, I really wanted to hone in on my personal style. But at the same time, I just get bored very easily. I'm not one of those sort of one-trick pony kind of dudes. I like to mix things up a bit. And sometimes when it comes to especially social media, it bodes better for you to be more of a one-trick pony because the algorithm loves that shit. If you're just doing the same thing every day and post at the same time, like you see these artists, they blow up huge. But I think because I do get bored and I mix things up sometimes too much, things can... algorithmically and social media wise it can be a bit touch and go, but I don't do it for that anyway. I just I do it because I enjoy it, and I've always kind of looked at things as I've always wanted to be a Renaissance man, like they were just so fucking good at everything. Like they could sculpt, paint, draw, invent stuff. Like I'm not saying I would ever get to that point, but I've always just admired that hunger for knowledge and learning new creative skills. It's just something that I've always been into.
Bro, don't sell yourself short. I bet you could invent a helicopter if you really tried.
Totally.
A helicopter dildo or something. There's a niche for that somewhere.
Just constantly slapping me in the face. Ow! Shindy, why did you do this? That's a horrible idea. How?
The jets
I told James
coming out of the dildos like jets, like at the bottom.
I told James whenever you posted the picture of you after you shaved your beard, I was like, Shindy would work perfect for the cover of romance novels. You know, you've got the jaw. You know, you've got the jaw. You've got the hair, the dark hair. You're like, so that might be another, path that you can.
Fuck off, guys! Seriously, it's hot at the angle. The angle of the photo, you can't see my double chin. To be fair, I'm very strategic.
Dude, it was the look, like, right? It was like the look over the shoulder. You nailed it. Fucking nailed it.
I am blessed with very thick, luscious locks. I'll give you that.
Yeah, dude, you are. What made you? What brought you to?
The whole rest of the conversation just talking about his hair.
Right? Yeah. I'd be fine with that.
So my routine is beard oil. No. I just shaved it off to start from scratch because I was just shaping it a lot and fucking it up a lot as well. And it just became this like mishmash of like really uneven shapes. And again, I'm just so self-critical. I wanted to start from scratch. And my partner wouldn't look at me for 2 weeks.
He's like, I draw the fucking line.
You better grow that shit back or I'm leaving.
Back after a couple of weeks, being Indian and hairy. Yeah. I started shaving when I was like fucking 4. So
yeah, I was gonna
just imagine you on a step stool with a fucking safety razor, like,
yeah.
I'm not understanding, but I got it. Fuck it.
4-year-old Shindy. Somebody give me a beer. Yeah, I was actually going to ask, are your parents from India or were they from the UK?
So my grandparents were from India, born and raised in India, and then they moved to Kenya in Africa to build some train lines from Mombasa to Kenya. So then they all sort of emigrated over to Kenya, and then my parents were born there, and then my parents from Kenya moved to the UK in the 70s, and then me and my two brothers were born here in the UK.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of crazy. A weird tapestry of like Indian culture, but also Kenyan food as well. And my mum can speak Swahili, and obviously English as well. But I can only speak English because I was born here and I went to a very, a school with mainly English kids. And my parents wanted to get better at speaking English, as their first language. So they started speaking more English at home. And I've just totally lost my native tongue. Like I used to speak really fluent Punjabi is what our native tongue is. Even more fluent than my grandmother at one point, apparently. But I've lost it all, like since I was maybe 6 or something.
Damn.
Which is crazy, yeah. So when I'm at like family get-togethers, it's really awkward because they're all speaking to me in Indian, and I'm just nodding my head.
Have you gone? I actually a couple years ago, I remember you took a trip to Thailand, didn't you?
Yes.
Or was that India?
I've been to Thailand. Gotcha. I've never been to India or Kenya. I would love to go.
Oh, gotcha.
How about you guys? I'm guessing you guys are born and bred American.
Oh
yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Any sort of like Italian or Irish in the family, or
no, just Vikings for me.
I don't fucking know. I was adopted at birth, and my mom was adopted also. So I'm a fucking test tube baby. I have no fucking heritage whatsoever.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know. I know our family line. There's some Italian, like way back. And then, but most of it is German and Scotland and Ireland, UK.
I like that you sound a little bummed when you say German.
Well, like, yeah, it's like, yeah. But the reason why I asked about if you'd ever been to India is because, like, I think that's one of the number one places I've always wanted to visit, just because of how fucking chaotic it seems to be, and the lifestyle seems to be in a lot of those cities. It's like I read a novel God, that was like 2016 or 17, called Shantaram, and that took place in India in the 80s. And it was like just the way the descriptions of the cities were, and like the traffic sounds so fucking terrifying that I was like, I have to experience this at some point. But yeah, so I was just curious if you ever had been.
Yeah, I'd love
Justin's
to.
like, I gotta die in a car wreck in India.
Yeah. I mean, there's some members even of my family that have been, and I get mixed reviews. One cousin would say like, "Oh, it's the most spiritual place you've ever been to," and another like sort of uncle of mine would say, "I've been and I would never go again," just because it was such an assault on the senses. But I think that's the mystique of it, right? I think there's just so much going on. It's just this big, huge, clamoring, moving sort of city of color and noise and pollution and beauty as well. I can see why so many people are drawn to it for sure.
Yeah, it seems it just seems chaotic, like completely chaotic for all of the reasons.
Yeah.
I'm just so fucking English, dude. Like, I will be there just dying for fish and chips. Like, where's the fish and chips around here, mate?
I don't think they have that there.
All my American friends that have traveled have always said that the one thing that they always miss is cheese. Like, nowhere has cheese.
Yeah, because they don't have dairy and there's no beef, but
yeah, the only time that I ate in London was at an airport, because I had a layover between.
Oh, so truly authentic.
Yeah. And it was there was a layover on the way to Italy when I went in college, and that was the worst breakfast I think I've ever had in my life. It was awful. It was just awful. And it was like the waiter, I remember the group that I was with, one kid was like, I think we all got eggs and toast and shit. And the look on everyone's faces as we ate, and then the waiter coming to ask if everything was okay, everybody just looked at him and they were like, where's the flavor in any of this? And he just could not understand. He was like, what's wrong with it? And some guy was like, everything, man. So yeah. My experience with English food is not that great.
Yeah, I mean, the English fry up is like, it's toast and beans, eggs, like bacon. We're not as big on like the sweet like pancakes and like, maple syrup and stuff as you guys and Canadians, obviously. But I do love an English fry up. But yeah, man, it's just American food is just so huge and just so big, like portion size, like everything. Even the pancakes are twice the fucking size. The waffles are like 3 times the size. It's just insane. But do you guys have potato waffles over there? Because our waffles are made out of like mashed potato.
Oh, okay.
What?
Yeah, we have
potato.
I think it's a Jewish thing called, I think it's potato pancakes or latkes, maybe. I could be completely wrong with latkes, but so I've had that. I love them. They're fucking tasty, but I've never had waffles. Potato waffles is...
Oh, they're so good. Because I've never really had is it the same thing as pancakes, just pancake waffles?
So a waffle is more is the like the structured one with the square and the holes and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas a pancake is more just like a spongy disc. It's like a disc of cake.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
a pancake.
Is the batter the same though? Like the batter that makes...
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to ascertain. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of the podcast is just food.
Yeah. Well, see, it's stupid because I've always been like waffles over pancakes any day of the week, but they're the exact same. The only difference is waffles
changes the flavor. The shape 100% changes. It's like
the
crinkle cut chips and straight chips, totally different things. Curly fries and fries, totally different things.
Totally different. But the up that waffles has over pancakes is they have the pockets that'll hold your syrup.
Yeah,
that's very true.
And that's a big that's a big factor.
Okay, so what about French toast, y'all?
What sucks is I can't eat any of this shit anymore because I can't eat gluten. So it's
and I'm vegan, so
so it's just a
this is just nostalgia.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I made vegan eggy bread. I've been vegan for a while too, and I make it out of gram flour and black salt. Like black salt is like an Indian spice, and it has a very eggy taste to it. So
Okay.
you essentially, I'm just going to give you the recipe here, but I'm going to omit certain secret sides of it, just so you
right.
can't. It's all patented and copyrighted and everything, so I don't want to
You'll have
reveal
to
too much.
you'll have to pay Shindy for the actual recipe.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Link in the description, guys. So basically, black salt, gram flour is chickpea flour, and that's something that
Okay.
Indians use a lot as well. So it's that and milk, so it was soya milk or oat milk or whatever. But it works, dude. It works so well. And then you basically just add as many herbs and spices as you want to make it, like, because Indians, when we have eggs or when we used to have eggs, we always, like with everything, we add spice. Like we add garam masala and cumin and turmeric and all this sort of stuff. But it works. Like I make vegan eggy bread for me and my girlfriend quite regularly. It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
I miss it. So it scratches the itch for sure.
Yeah, dude, that sounds awesome. I'm gonna make that. That sounds fucking great.
Yeah, it does. Should probably learn how to cook. Yeah, I should do that. Yeah. Now I'm hungry.
All right, guys, good podcast.
Yeah. We're off to eat. Yeah. So going back to the movies you watched as a kid, obviously seeing Hellraiser for the first time, that I didn't realize that Hellraiser was such a integral part of your childhood. Which now that I look back at the Hellraiser piece that you did for us, now that makes total sense, because I've never, and I know James and I had this conversation whenever we were working on that with you. I've never seen a Hellraiser design approached with that type of vibe in mind, and that's always the type of vibe that we always saw out of Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Of why is none of the art feeling like they are just these imposing godlike figures? And your design ended up nailing that. So yeah, that's really cool to now look back retroactively and see your take on that. That makes a lot of sense.
That's great to hear, dude. Yeah, like I have a very, because I saw it so young and it just blew my mind. I have a very intimate relationship with every single frame of that film. Like I know it like the back of my hand. And there's just so much to that movie where other films in that era, they were dark, but they were still almost like slasher films, right? There was nothing really transcendental horror that tackled those sort of subjects. It was still kind of not hokey cokey, but kind of gratuitous violence for the sake of it, and because it was fun, right? But what I loved about this film is that it just felt so. It's like a spiritual film. So there's so much going on in that film that I just love, and again, like the gore and the special effects, like the models in that film are just so well done. It's just so good.
Right.
So
and going back to the fun thing, like Hellraiser is fun for us, but it's not a fun movie. It's serious. Like it's not like, oh, ha ha ha. Like we've done a whole thing on Friday the 13th. We love that fucking series, but like,
of course,
he smashes their face into a tree and it leaves a smiley face. You're not gonna get that in Hellraiser ever.
No.
Even if you have a fucking Cenobite that shoots CDs.
Right.
Exactly. Like my girlfriend, she likes horror films, but she likes slasher films and she likes the ridiculous sort of films. But if I want to watch Hellraiser or The Thing, they are such grim films to watch. Like you are in horror and you are disgusted at what you see on the screen. It's not enjoyable for her, but I just love that shit because I'm so detail orientated. I'm just looking at every little drop of blood and sinew and fucking bone fragments. I fucking love it. So I just soak it all up.
Hell yeah.
I think for me, it's always the vibe of that movie and movies like it. And I know James is the same way. It's like we're always chasing movies that can embody like the gore and graphics and details that's always awesome. But it's the vibe and the way that those movies make you feel is so different from a lot of the stuff that was out there then and a lot of the stuff that's still being made. So it's like a never-ending search for movies that are going to make you feel very different. Like the
I think,
go ahead.
I think that's a huge reason why rewatching Martyrs, I like it so much now. Because like it really, that is not a fun movie.
No.
What film is this? Sorry, James.
Martyrs.
I've not seen that one.
Oh man, you should watch it. It's fucked up, but it's
brutal.
It's brutal. Yeah, it's crazy. I can't really tell you much about it because it'll spoil the whole thing.
But the connective tissue of trying to explore concepts that are outside of this reality, it's deep. It's deeper. The subject matter is very, it's not fun. And it's obviously traumatic. But it's those films that try to seek and search out what is after this.
Personally, I just love all that like beyond the veil shit. Like
100%.
Like the Void, the fucking Hellraiser, anything that's like, what's beyond? Yeah. Okay, we found out what's beyond, and it is fucked up. And it wants to fucking eat you or something.
It's a Lovecraft film, essentially. I think that's the cool thing about it. And I think that mixed with I don't think I ever
thought of Hellraiser as a Lovecraft film.
Say again, sorry?
What?
I said, I don't think I've ever thought of it, but yeah, Hellraiser's a fucking Lovecraft movie.
It is, dude. Yeah. It's a Lovecraftian film. It's transcendental horror, and it's all it's missing is tentacles, really. Like the whole theme of it.
Chains.
Yeah, chains is the tentacle.
Very true.
Yeah.
It's like From Beyond, man. Like I only watched that film a few years ago, and that film was so sick, and it definitely gave me Hellraiser vibes for sure.
Oh yeah,
we got to have you do a From Beyond.
Oh, 100%, dude. The shirt that you did of From Beyond was so sick.
Oh yeah, dude, so happy with those.
Yeah, Chelsea and Luke did such a cool job.
They killed those.
They killed that. Really good.
But yeah, it sucks because I hate Lovecraft as a human being. That guy sucked.
Not a good dude. Not a good dude.
No. Just a shitty dude. But the dude's imagination and world building is just unmatched. The From Beyond short story even is like watching that. It's really impressive to see what Stuart Gordon and everybody who made From Beyond and Reanimator, how they morphed those movies out of his stories, like especially From Beyond. From Beyond's pretty short as a story, and it's really cool. But that movie is so far above and beyond what that story is.
Have you guys read the Hellraiser book?
No,
that the film is based on. It's so good. Actually, the film is 1987, right? It's very. It's actually quite faithful to the book. There's just maybe a couple of scenes that aren't in the film. But one scene that really grabbed me was, I think it's where Frank is first experimenting with the puzzle box, and he's starting to sort of pierce that veil. But the Cenobites come in very short bursts, and then it becomes a really slow build up of him almost sexually, because it's a psychosexual film as well, right? You can see him wanting it more in a sexual, pleasurable way. But one of these Cenobite things that he sees is I read it a long time ago, but essentially she's got her she appears in the corner of the room with her legs open, and her legs are lined with severed tongues, and there's maggots and shit coming out of her womb, and it's so grim, so descriptive in the book as well. I might be making some of that up, but the tongues and the legs and everything is there. I'm obviously revealing a secret fantasy in my brain. Good thing you can't see my boner right now, guys.
I immediately was like, wait, is that where Cannibal Corpse got that cover idea from?
Yeah, the worm-infested cover.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised though, dude, man. The maggots and all that stuff, so fucking grim. And the sound in that film as well. There's music, very theatrical music, but even just the sound of flies buzzing every now and then, it just adds so much to the grim vibe of that film.
Yeah, you don't hear movie scores quite like those horror films had in the 80s anymore. Not even close.
No.
Like the entire score of Hellraiser is just so fucking iconic. But it's iconic not for a nostalgic purpose. It's iconic because it is so fucking good.
Really great music. It's almost like Danny Elfman did the score, right?
Right. Yeah. 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 And that guy, I mean, that guy delivers, but you just don't, you just don't hear that kind of attention to music writing anymore.
I just watched Jaws because this is right around July 4th. And the music in that, I was like, obviously it's John Williams, but like, what fucking horror movie has a John Williams score now?
Right.
None. Like, not even anything even fucking remotely close.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, it's crazy.
And the music makes that film. Like, I watched it not long ago, and I was finding it hard to stay focused. I don't know if it was just because of my headspace at the time, but the music kept me going, dude. Like, if it wasn't for that music score, I don't think it would be anywhere near as huge as that film was.
No.
Oh yeah. No, well, same thing with the story behind the original Halloween, where Carpenter showed the producer of the film, or the distributor. I think either the distributor or the other producer, or it might have been one of the investors, one of the guys that funded the movie, showed him the final cut of the movie, and he was like, "John, that was the most boring piece of shit I've watched." And then a week later, he shows him the exact same cut, but now with music, and he's like, "John, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever fucking watched." So like that just adds, such a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Music is such a huge part of movies, and I don't think people really understand how much of a difference it makes.
Although watching Jaws without music, I still would be terrified because sharks.
That's different.
Yeah, like, true. I think it would add even more of a weird fucking mood to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Another film you guys covered, and I don't want to kind of jump around too much, but it's
no. But bro, have you listened to the fucking podcast?
But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, dude, like the fucking weird, bizarre music in that film. You can't even call it music. It's just pops fucking banging every now and then. That weird sort of camera, Polaroid camera squeal at the beginning of the film. It's just so fucking good, dude.
At one point, the only sound in it for like minutes is just generator noise.
Yes. Yeah. When they're exploring all the houses, right? When they're just walking around the farms.
Yeah.
So good.
Dude. It's like, what is going, like, it's terrifying because you're now in that moment with them.
Yeah.
Because there's barely any music in that movie. So it doesn't, I feel like sometimes the music acts as a buffer to where you're able to like remove yourself and just watch it. Whereas Texas Chainsaw, you're experiencing this with them.
It induces this like insane, almost for me, a primitive mania because it's so stripped and it's almost tribal. It almost makes me imagine that I'm like a fucking one of the first cannibals ever, and I'm looking at these humans wanting to fucking eat them. I just get that vibe just because it's so bizarre and primitive, the music.
And that's also just the vibe of West Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been to America or no?
I have, but I've only been to Florida. My uncle,
my condolences,
Jacksonville, and I've been to North Carolina, which
Jacksonville,
is total like polar opposite in the mountains. Fucking beautiful. I would totally live in North Carolina, 100%.
Florida, that's where I grew up.
Apart from the death metal,
no, Florida's
obviously.
Florida death metal. Death metal's kind of dying though.
Yeah, and it's done. It's done here.
Morrisound is still kicking, but
so you guys are Florida.
I think. Yeah, we're in Tampa.
Oh wow, that's such a shame that the death metal scene is just not what it was, man. That's really sad.
Yeah. No. It's but I mean, I get it. It's how many. Not to shit on death metal, but like, it's what 30 years deep into it, and it's like how many times can the same band write the same thing? Especially 90s Florida death metal. It requires some new influences to infuse that genre in order to really like amplify it at this point.
Yeah.
That's why I think Black Dahlia will like rose above so many death metal bands. and in the other bands that are out there that continuously put out stuff or come along, it's different. They're infusing
100%.
different styles and stuff. But like looking at footage from the early like death metal scene from Tampa, it's wild. Like you go to a show here now, and it's like nobody moves, nobody does anything. They just kind of stand there. It's really weird.
Yeah, there's some states in America where things are kind of blowing up. I mean, there's bands like Frozen Soul that are bringing back that sort of old school thrashy sort of death metal vibe, which I absolutely love. I'm not sure what state they're from, and then there's Power Trip.
I think it's
obviously, from
Texas.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think Texas.
I remember. I think their Instagram is Frozen Soul TX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
Texas, though, man, like whenever we toured and worked with bands and book tours and stuff, like we would usually do like a week in Texas and hit all the main and small parts of Texas. And the amount
very small.
Yeah, like the amount of bands that come out of Texas and like how wide range that they are. There's some bands there that are just fucking nuts.
Yeah, dude.
And in the best of ways. So yeah, that whole state is just it's packed with some really cool people and amazing bands, but then like you go outside of the city and it's like, oh, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Like someone's going to kill me. Like I'm going to be massacred with a chainsaw.
Can we
like,
please not
up.
run out of gas in this state? Please, please.
Yeah. Let's say it was so hot it melted melted the trailer tires.
Jeez.
I think 3 days in a row. It was nuts. It was just
absolutely. Dude, I'm in the
nuts.
UK. Like the country, literally. I mean, what you guys are, you measure it in Fahrenheit, so we get to like maybe 30 degrees Celsius over here, and the whole country just shuts down. Like people are just literally dying. But
that's
like you guys have like 40, 45. 70? It's crazy.
What is 30 degrees Celsius?
I think that's maybe
play the Jeopardy theme
80?
song. 30 Celsius. Only 86?
Yeah, right?
Sure, like 80.
Right? Like 86. It's 98 here right now.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah, like we
was
30 degrees, so 86 is like really fucking hot for us. Like we're going insane, and water runs out and shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's 93 right now, and it's only 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah,
I don't know what the heat index is.
The other day it was
really showing our age right now.
Yeah, the other day it was 118 in New Orleans.
Oh, Jesus!
That I can't even fucking.
And what scares me about that is New Orleans and anywhere in the South. Anybody who travels the South knows exactly what I'm about to say. The fucking humidity is so bad. So like 100, anywhere close to 100 in the South, especially in Louisiana, I can't imagine how like that's like the heat feels so oppressive because it's got the humidity along with it. I don't know if it gets humid in the UK. Maybe that's a stupid thing to say.
Isn't it like constantly raining pretty much?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, even like today, it's been raining a lot, and it does get very humid. But even then, you max it would be maybe like 75 degrees or something. You know, like in the humidity.
Bro, we're moving to the UK.
Oh please,
yeah, I might have to.
I would love to live in the US, man. I do like the sun, but it's just the rain, dude. Like I don't mind the breeze and shit. It's just the constant rain.
Yeah. Don't move to Portland.
Yeah. I could see that gets exhausting after a while. This summer has been a lot different because it's last year it didn't rain hardly at all. But this year it's like raining every day.
Yeah.
Again, totally showing our age.
Did you guys find that during COVID the weather was just fucking great? Like the summers were great. Like
I really wasn't thinking about it, but now that you mention it, yeah.
It
was like, none of you could go outside. Fuck you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It must have been something to do with like just less moisture out in the air where you wanted to go or something, man. Because like, the summer here during COVID was just the best summer I've ever had. And I do not want to say that in a way that's insensitive to people who suffered during COVID, but
I had a great time. It was fucking lovely.
Fucking loved it, mate.
That whole summer, that's whenever I quit my job because I was like, I'm not catching this shit and and getting
you
sick.
were literally stocking shelves at grocery stores.
It's like, I don't have health insurance. I'm too fucking poor to afford health insurance.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not catching this shit and getting sick and suffering long-term consequences over a bag of chips. I remember our boss, whenever they passed whole mandates of, what they call it. Help me out, James. It was the type of workers that were like super important.
Essential
workers. They were like, nobody can go to work unless if you're deemed an essential worker. And I was like, I remember texting my boss and I'm like, are we included in that? And he was like, oh yeah, we're deemed essential workers. And I was like, but it's potato chips. We're just stocking potato chips, man. And he was like, well, that's us. And I was like, well, that just says everything about our country.
It's essential to capitalism, Justin.
Yeah.
What are you, some kind of socialist dude? Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want these fine Americans to have 15 different flavors of chips?
Yeah. It's just so
we've got to maintain our obesity levels, dude. Come on.
Right? Come on, man.
Yeah. That whole summer, it was whenever that was the turning point of everything, where everybody was buying online. And like I said, we did that thing release for that design that you did, and it just exploded. And we were like, oh, maybe we should just fuck it. Let's just focus on this. And then it just kept exploding. It was nuts.
That's cool, man. I've had a blast with you guys over the years. It's been great.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. It's also cool to see, now going back to art, it's also cool to see your shift of the style of design that you were doing at the beginning versus now the painted, or I don't know if I have to correctly describe it. Yeah. Even our printers, it's like every time I show them the next stuff that you end up doing, they're like, what the fuck? How does he do this? like what? I showed Jeff our printer, the new thing design that you just finished, and like he was just like, what? So yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Thanks,
to see.
Man. That's really great to hear. Yeah. I just love it. It's just just again being a very detail oriented person and just being able to see all the fleshy parts in the film. And I mean, even like the thing, you don't see the monsters for that long, but they're just so well done. Just the attention to detail, like skin ripping and all the veins and everything underneath. It's just now everything is just like CGI porn, and it's just I don't know. There's just something about it where they don't really. There's no passion in with the gore and stuff anymore. It's just an afterthought,
right.
You know.
It like so much of the modern horror filmmaking lacks a soul. It's just like we had this idea and we did it, and it's like, yeah, that's good, but like, were you passionate about the idea, or did you just want to put something out? And it's that I think that's an important. I think that's what differentiates things from being like, yeah, it's all right, to like legendary. Like this is like 100%. The Thing is a fucking legendary movie, and like the reason. There's no way that the reason that Carpenter is so upset about that isn't due to the fact that he that movie is a work of passion for him, and everyone was like, it sucks, and he took it fucking hella personally, rightfully so, too. Honestly.
Yeah, I would have too.
Yeah, just like
I'd have fought everybody.
But
he knew that was a masterpiece.
Because of CGI and technology now, like obviously, studios and production teams, it's almost like a boardroom meeting idea of horror a lot of the time. And it's very clean and it's very shiny. Whereas I think what adds to the horror of, say, Hellraiser and bringing it back to like that and The Thing is it's all within the lens of like an old school camera, and it's imperfect, but you can just imagine being in real life and seeing things imperfectly, but still being horrified by it, Whereas CGI is like everything is so clean and perfect. Like even to when it comes to like the movement of something and the camera angles are just so gratuitous sometimes. It's just like, dude,
Yeah.
just removes the horror from it because it just becomes this
Yeah.
fantastical Marvel film, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like,
Yeah.
reality isn't perfect, right? So,
Mm.
like,
Right.
if you see it as perfect, it rings weird. It's not
Yeah.
like I can't get involved in it because that's not something that would ever happen. But you look at the
Right.
thing, you look at the Cenobites, and like, that physically is existing in this space with these people.
Exactly. It's
Right.
got so much more texture and real weight to it because again, you know, you've got lens flare and everything going on that just adds to the mystique of it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lens flare's always been a weird one for me. Like, why would you want to point out that you're looking through a camera?
You know, it's with the CGI stuff. It's so interesting to compare now and then, and it's like I feel like gore and these special effects are now added in for. I know it sounds silly to say for effect because that's obviously what they are, but whenever you compare that today versus Carpenter's approach and Rick Baker's approach and all these guys that did those films, it's their use of gore and special effects back then were world building. Like it was served a purpose to flesh out the world. Right.
Yes.
It wasn't just for a shocking effect. It was, no, this is what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
This is a part of the new reality that you're just now find yourself in, and you're fucked. Whereas now it kind of just feels like, I don't know. It just doesn't
digital blood has arguably gotten better, but it's still like,
this is what I was going to say as well, actually. So like when you're building something like they did in The Thing or like Hellraiser or whatever, it's like it's restricted to the realms of actual physics, right? So then when you see a limb being twisted and ripped open, it looks real, but because sometimes you know, some of these films have obviously teams of CGI animators and stuff, but they may not actually be able to replicate or understand movement as well as, you know, reality essentially. So then you'll see this again, really fantastical movement that just doesn't sit right. It just looks really fake. Whereas when you're confined to reality and making something from scratch, it's gonna pass off as real because it is real. It's not like a fantastical way of, oh yeah, so the way this blood splatters, I want it to be like this. And that's like, no, dude, like you're throwing caution to the wind at that point in real life.
Right.
Yeah, the only thing you can do as a physical effects artist is try to make it look better on film, but you're not going to be able to change the physics of something. So like if you throw a splat of blood or if you throw a geyser of blood, it's going to do the thing that physics does.
Exactly.
Whereas could you imagine the fucking the Nightmare on Elm Street, the original one where Johnny Depp gets sucked into the bed and all the blood comes out and it's fucking digital?
Yeah. Same thing.
That would look like shit.
I was thinking of the elevator scene in The Shining.
Yeah, that was the other one that I was thinking of. Yeah,
that's what's
there's no way it would
about
work.
It's real red. Obviously, it's not real blood, but it looks like real blood, and it flows and splashes like real blood. But you can just imagine being like a CGI guy. And going back to managers being dicks, you can just imagine like one of the directors or production managers being like, right, so the way this blood splatters, I want it to splat like this. And you'd be an animator, but like, but dude, that would not happen in real life. But they're like, oh, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I'm paying your bill, so I want blood to splash like this. They'd have to do it, and then the film would be sacrificed for it, you know?
Yeah. Yep. That's, you know, speaking to continue with The Thing, it's why the prequel, I don't know why everybody calls it a sequel or a reboot, because it's fucking not. They're Norwegian.
I call it a fucking reboot, and it's not on purpose. It's just in my head like that.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know why everybody said they're Norwegian. They're the people that came before.
They're Norwegian, Mac.
Yeah. But that's you know, we were so robbed with that movie because of the forced use of CGI, not even during filming, but after the fact.
And I know I brought it up, but I've seen some of the physical stuff from when Adam Savage went and toured the effects place that made all the original physical stuff, and it looks fucking incredible.
I bet
it's more terrifying than the first one somehow, and it's like, why was this not used? Like, so dumb.
So I thought
the only good thing is the fucking
they
face
did make
melting.
real prosthetics, but then they decided to use CGI instead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fuck, dude, that's such a bad
right.
I know,
dude, and it's insane,
and it's all because I'm convinced at this point, the older we get and the more we learn, every decision like that has to be centered around money.
But here's the thing. But that logic falls apart. They made them, so they got paid for them.
But I bet you, because I don't think that they filmed every. I think it was, from what I remember us reading, it was sometime during filming where the studio shifted. So I think it always ends up coming down to, well, we'll save money in the literal shooting time. And go, because obviously the Shining might be a little bit different, but that scene with the elevator and the blood, Kubrick did that multiple times.
Well, he did everything for weeks at a time.
Can you imagine the money just per day, because it costs so much money to film per day? Could you imagine how much money was wasted on just even 4 takes of that elevator scene?
What I mean, and 100%, which now that you said it, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, it probably was it. Yes, we paid for the physical things, but how much quicker is it to film one thing and then we'll just fucking put it in, as opposed to we have to make sure that this puppet works every fucking time and the blood comes out every time.
Yeah, you could engineer the perfect, the perfect splatter or the perfect blood drip. You could engineer that from the ground up. So that makes a lot of sense. But I think that just goes back to why some horror films just really suck nowadays.
Yeah, it makes sense. It just still sucks.
Yeah,
right. I get it.
Yeah, in a monetary sense, it makes sense, but that's not what fucking being a creative is. That's not what film and music should be, dude.
Yeah. That's 100%. Why I have so much admiration for Steven, the director of The Void and Psycho Goreman.
Definitely.
And it's like, because that group of guys that he's with, just in a warehouse, just making everything on their own because they have no choice but to do that. It's such a, people just don't do that, nearly as much anymore. And it's like, it shows it 100% makes such a dramatic difference. And it's like, those films might not be the biggest in the world, but I will forever remember the costumes and the effects in The Void and Psycho Goreman.
Definitely.
Over half the stuff that I've watched recently.
Yeah.
It just goes down to mainstream films now. Because The Thing would have been, would that have been a mainstream kind of blockbuster horror film? Would it have had a huge budget back then?
Well, it got completely trashed in reviews. People hated that movie
I know
a very long time.
It didn't make a lot of profit, obviously in the first showings, but
I don't think
got a pretty big budget from the production team. I don't know, or the producers, or.
Well, I know it was Universal.
Universal, yeah.
Most.
So what?
Yeah.
So that's
I
what
would
I'm saying.
imagine
Is back then that would have been a pretty high grade horror film, whereas now a high grade horror film, they just wouldn't even contemplate the idea of prosthetics.
Yeah.
Because of the
$15 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 1.5 of it was spent on the creature effects.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, holy Jesus.
Yeah.
And then the gross worldwide was only 19.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's nuts. 18. Yeah. So they made $4 million in profit.
Yeah.
82.
I wonder what the full gross is now.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it bounced back. It's one of the most, most iconic films of all time. But yeah, that is such a, that's sad.
That's crazy.
That's brutal. Yeah. But I mean, I guess that's what happens when I think that's a perfect example of, and you can apply this to music even, and a lot of bands. Like you go back and you're like, oh wow, that band was doing that then, and you find so many obscure bands whenever you really start to dig, and it's like, I guess that's what happens whenever you introduce something that nobody is used to seeing or expecting and have no fucking idea how to even process what you just heard or listened to.
Yeah.
And that's a cultural
death metal's the perfect example, right? Like,
yeah, how many iterations from 84 to 88 to 90 did that genre of music undergo before it really caught on? And how many bands just kind of got swept under the rug and didn't get their, like, the attention that they deserve because people just weren't ready to hear it.
They weren't ready for it. Yeah, that's right. There's bands that were, mixing stuff. Like Cynic is one band where when they came out, no one gave a shit about them. But now prog death metal heads fucking love it because there was some I think you can be too far ahead of the curve sometimes.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure. Which it always makes me wonder, because I think about stuff like that a lot. And then going back to Texas Chainsaw, which we actually just recorded an episode. We're currently in the process of recording the whole episodes over the whole franchise. But that's such an interesting look of taking that concept of what we're just talking about and then applying it to TCM. Why did TCM, which was nothing, was even remotely close to that? Why did that catch on and then something like The Thing didn't?
Yeah.
That's so weird. You would think that people would have more of a backlash. You would think TCM would have bombed with that logic.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Like,
the budget for TCM, the first TCM, was very small, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was getting at is The Thing had a $15 million budget and made $19 million. So that it now marketing and stuff, but also like, that's technically I'm sure that they didn't really market it that much. Otherwise, more people would have seen it, I would assume. But imagine like $4 million, you didn't do good enough.
Right.
But Texas Chainsaw, like, a couple 100,000 maybe.
It was estimated 140,000 to make Texas Chainsaw and grossed 30 million.
And that's the gross that we know about because of the mafia shit. Like, we don't know what the actual gross is.
That episode, that fucking blew my mind. That was crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I was watching a little thing on the remake, and Joe Bob Briggs was on it, and he had brought that up again, and I forgot that, like, he's like, if the actual numbers for it were known, it would probably be the best grossing film of all time.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
And that's 1974 money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of fucking money.
That's a lot of people.
And that film is so ahead of its time and so horrifying. Like every other film out maybe apart from Cannibal Holocaust, but that was really underground, low budget shit, right? Just so crazy.
And I don't even know how many people in America were really seeing Cannibal Holocaust when it first came out.
Right? Yeah, it's real underbelly stuff.
And Cannibal Holocaust, we've said it before on this podcast. Like I fucking hate that guy. But I feel like the Cannibal Holocaust is so fucked up is just centered around the fact that he murdered animals. On street.
It's just
that's just it's so it's so stupid. Where it's like TCM is a experience and a story and a setting, and the way that they crafted that story and that whole fucking experience is so much more horrific than most films even made today.
Than watching a group of assholes go into the jungle in order to exploit the indigenous people, and then just I don't want to watch it, man. I don't care. You guys are every aspect of this is the only good part is that you all fucking die.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like an epitome of just the exploitation of filmmakers in the 70s and stuff, and documentary filmmakers back then. Let's just fucking gawk at these indigenous people, but it's fucking shit. But TCM. I could talk for hours about TCM. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, bringing up Cannibal Holocaust, you obviously are from the UK. Do you have experience with? I don't know the time frame of it, but like the video nasty stuff. Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, but mainly because of American sort of friends and like college and stuff like that. Really, I don't think there was really much of a UK scene. I remember seeing like Slaughtered Vomit Dolls and August Underground and all of those sort of films.
Okay.
A short film. Have you seen Aftermath Genesis? A short film.
I don't think I have.
Oh man, it's so grim. It's not like a video nasty. It's not like made to look like handheld or anything. But it's basically about this. It's about, I think it's only 20 minutes long, and it's basically this mortician dressing down a body and cleaning a body, and then he ends up having sex with it. But there's like barely any music. It's so grim. Oh, so good. But yeah, so I'm familiar with sort of the big ones, like the big cult sort of nasty horror films and stuff.
You mentioned August Underground?
Yeah.
How was that viewing experience?
Fucking horrible. And arousing at the same time. I'm joking. I can't remember much of it, to be fair. To be fair, Slaughtered Vomit Dolls.
Shindy loves a severed nipple.
Yeah.
I remember watching Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, and I just found that really boring. It was just so like, okay, dudes are just like vomiting. Cool. Great.
Yeah.
But there's still probably so many that I've not seen that I would love to see.
I wonder if right now is a perfect time to finally. I have a clip on my phone of a friend of ours talking about August Underground that I've in my head constantly tried to find a spot to put this into one of our episodes. And maybe this is now the right time because you mentioned August Underground, and other than me and James, nobody ever mentions August Underground on this. So backstory. Well, actually, James, you should probably just tell.
A friend of mine. I guess I can say his name, John. That's really, really descriptive. He brought, John Doe. He would always bring over videotapes and movies and stuff, and he got me into a lot of like fucked up music and a lot of fucked up movies and stuff. A lot of the like he's the first person to show me Dawn of the Dead. He got me into a bunch of black metal and stuff, and he got me into Misfits. Like, is an integral part of my foundation. But so he would bring over like movies and stuff to watch, and he brought over this tape, and he's like, "Oh, it's got what's the band?"
I can't remember. I know
he says it in the voice clip.
I think
so you'll hear it, but it's that band, and that was the point of the video. He wanted to show me this band, and then he left the tape there, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch it.
Of a snuff film. That's just hilarious.
Well, so it was like however long their set is, and then after that it was August Underground. But on the tape, it was just a recorded tape, so it just said the band and then August Underground. And at that point, I'm just like, this is before August Underground was even known. Like, no, it had never. This was.
I think it was. I genuinely think it was before it was officially released.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I think he says that in the clip.
Yeah, I think so.
But so I just thought it was another band, like August Underground. All right, they're gonna be like weird death metal or some shit. Knowing this tape, and I started watching it, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I wasn't versed enough in movies yet to like instantly be like, "Oh, okay, well, it's just shot on a handheld."
So
how
old were you,
this?
James?
This was
15, 16.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. I was like in
early,
my 20s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We caught it when it, like I said, first came out.
Yeah, it was like 2001 or 2.
So back in 2020, when James is telling me this story of like, we were talking about it again for an episode that we did way back then. I go to Scott, the guy who made that tape, and I told him his story. I told him James's like story, and he sends me a video or a voice clip, and I'll go ahead and play it. So this is our buddy Scott talking about him making that cut of August Underground.
Okay, so here's the true story about that tape, and I don't have the time to type this out. So that tape was traded to me for a Black Witchery demo, and it was before August Underground officially came out. So it had a watermark. This is a property of Toe Tag Films. So I took my mom's VCR and my VCR, and I edited all those watermarks out. And I started putting like 2 or 3 copies of that tape around Bradenton at like bus stops. So it actually, and I took the credits that are on that film. Like there's like a small credit at the end, just to prove it's not like a snuff film. And so anything that could make it look like a real film, I edited out of it and I threw it on Bradenton, hoping that someone would like take it home, watch it, and actually think it was a snuff film. True story.
It worked. It 100% worked. Because like you said, there's no credits, there's no anything. It just fucking starts. And then you're seeing them like torture this chick and shit. And the only part that I was like, all right, this isn't real, is when she shits. And I was like, that's a candy bar, guys. That's a candy bar. Like, all right. But I turned it off before that the first time because I was like, it fucked me up. It fucked with no context. You're just like, I'm watching a chick get her fucking tit cut off. Like, what the fuck is happening? So fucked.
Yeah, I'm getting
good job, Scott. You're a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
Scott was. I had a goth friend of mine who was really obsessed with like these sort of like underground horror films, and she was the one that showed me that film. And yeah, man, like it's been a long time. Obviously, you watch that film the once, and then you never watch it again, right? Because why the fuck would you? But
yeah. You really don't need to because it's just playing in your head.
Yeah. It's like it's not really like well, it's not a snuff film at all, but a Serbian film. Like Jesus Christ, dude! Like there's something about that.
Yeah,
there's a film. A couple of friends of mine who are having this debate on like Facebook or something, and about how people shouldn't do merch and stuff for that film because it's just so grim. But I don't know, man. Where do you draw the line? I can kind of get where they're coming from because it's such a horrible film. Like, why would you want to? But it's not glorifying any of it, really. It's not like I think it's just the subject matter in the film itself. But it's not like we love violence or we want to condone serial killers killing people, right? It's like this is I don't know what the word is. It's like almost we're vicariously living through the horror, but we don't obviously want it to happen.
Right.
Well, I think it links to like that emotion when some shit goes wrong and you're like, I could fucking kill that person, and it's just like, okay, I can expunge that vibe by watching these movies instead of actually killing that person.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's also and I know we talk about this like ad nauseum, but it's also the safety of exploring concepts around death.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that that's one of the bigger reasons why horror movies are so connect more than most other genres of film. Because no matter what genre, it's still, even if it obviously affects you, if it's a horror comedy, then you get to laugh about it. If it's a fucked up version where, like, take your pick, it's still no matter how it makes you feel, it's still a safe distance from exploring those concepts that we're all terrified about, that you don't have to obviously personally confront on a Tuesday afternoon. Nobody's chasing you with a chainsaw, hopefully. But it's all about
confronting, like you say, confronting your humanity in a way. You actually just questioning like what it is to be human and the feelings of what it is to lose life in a way that's palpable and makes you realize how fragile life is.
Yeah. And also exploring the concept. I mean, like death, but also just like exploring the concepts of it's a movie or they're movies, so maybe the psychology isn't necessarily the most sound, but a lot of times it's experiencing things without having to experience them. You know what I mean? Like I like thinking about being in fucked up situations, but I don't want to be in them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to think about how I would get out of them,
Yeah.
but I don't actually want to be chased through Texas.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not Scott.
No.
Scott just wants to, in that audio clips, Scott just wants to create
That is
havoc.
so crazy,
for,
man. Like bus stops. Leave that at bus stops.
Dude, yeah.
Jesus.
I'm honestly
Yeah.
surprised that nothing ever came of that.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
that,
not on a bigger local news scale, but
Right.
somebody
definitely saw
out
it.
there
Yeah.
put that in a tape or into a VCR in the early 2000s and was like,
Oh, God.
what? Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's one of the main reasons why horror movies are so widely consumed is it's no matter what country you're in, everybody is so obsessed with death and violence and murder and all of these horrific things because it
They
exists.
create entire religions about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
and
going to
then
say,
force
like,
you
when
to-
you go
yeah.
back in time and, you look at these, old biblical stories and you look at, like, mythological, like lore and stuff like that,
Mhm.
we weren't so shy of exploring ideas of death and things
Not at
like
all.
that. I mean, if you look at classical, this is what I like about classical art is it's dark. Like we're confronting stuff about life and death and and how it's intertwined. It's not like this taboo subject where, like a
Right.
modern Christian would be like, oh, I don't even accept the existence of Satan, but I'll accept the existence of God, right? It's like you can't have
Right.
one without the other, and shying away from it then just makes us more it makes us more susceptible to being corrupted in a way that makes us bad people, right?
Right.
Like if
Yeah.
you're
Right.
exploring dark subject matter, and like you said, James, you're venting frustration through that, and you're getting catharsis from it. You're then going to be a lot more level-headed at work the next day. You're not going to want to murder anyone, But if you're
Right.
Right.
bottling all of that frustration in there and these thoughts, and you're not even allowed to acknowledge it, then it's only going to become this like cancerous tumor for sure. Like,
Right. It's also such I'm glad that you mentioned the God and Satan kind of thing of, the light and dark. It's when you look at mythology, obviously, I'm sure anybody who are familiar with us knows that we are not religious people. I fucking despise Christianity. But at the same time, like it's, it is what it is. It exists. And it is fascinating to research all religions and mythologies from a human storytelling element.
100%.
And when you look at all of those, it's you can clearly see how it's people trying to make sense of this reality because this reality doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
But when you go even further than that and look at the environment that people existed in, especially back then, you start to see that, you mentioning Satan, it's like that character, that fictional character, to see the evolution and storytelling, his characters over hundreds and hundreds of years starts to be formed. And then so much is attributed to so many things that were happening to certain people in real life, their persecutions, their, them being murdered, them, all of these types of things.
Very human things
Yeah. Get morphed into a fictional character who represents all of that. Early Christians being persecuted and hunted by other people and murdered for their beliefs and all of this stuff. It's like, well, if you're on the opposite end of that and that's what your reality is, then trying to make sense of, well, why the fuck are people trying to do that to me? Well, obviously these are horrific acts. Maybe like the only thing I could think of is they're possessed by evil. They're driven by evil. Then what creates that evil? Then it's, oh, this character from this myth or this lore, then it just gets built up and up. And it's like, when you look at that, it really just illustrates the fact that, people are just really fucked up. This world is very fucked up, but it's also awesome at the same time. You gotta have a balance of it and
100%.
not and straying away from acknowledging all of those horrible parts or acting as if you can't explore those types of things just push you further from the reality of what people are capable of doing.
And it's also interesting because like thinking about that and like us going through Texas and like, yeah, the vibe there is terrible, but honestly, none of the people ever fucked with us.
No,
they were all like, everyone that we ever encountered on tour was always pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's like people are fucked up on an individual basis, but people as a whole are not.
Yeah. And then
it's really weird.
This is the thing as well. It's like it's with certain Christians and stuff. It's like judgment on a particular action or taking responsibility, which is fine, but also like hate is taught, like racism is taught. It's not like you're
100%.
born evil. And if you if you look at Satan, he was a fallen angel, right? Like there's some tragedy in there that has caused this malice, right? It spawned out of something, and it's like serial killers. A lot of them are abused, right? And a lot of them have really, not all of them. Obviously, some of them are just fucking insane. But then that can be attributed to a chemical imbalance, or it's like it's not one.
There's
of
a lot going on
itself.
there.
It's still a reality-based thing that's happening. It's not Satan fucking possessed them or some shit.
Right.
It's just that their brain chemistry's fucked up.
Yeah. It's weird because like even to piggyback off of what you were just saying, James, it's those experiences of going and traveling and seeing the ways other people live and encountering their day-to-day life and what environment that they live in. Largely, people on an individual basis are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like we were given food and a place to stay and help, left and right from people that could not have been more opposite of the things that we were into, and religious beliefs too. There was a one of the promoters that was married to her husband, and she was a very, very evangelical Christian. But every time we came through town, it was, you guys have a place to stay? Can I get you anything? What do you guys need? How can I help? All of these things.
Her husband was the drummer or something, guitar. He was something in a death metal band. And weirdly, like, she's super Christian, but they never pushed any of it.
Yeah. So it's like,
it was an interesting situation.
Yeah. So it's like on an individual basis. I'm not saying this goes for everybody, but a lot of people, like there's, on an individual basis, not everybody is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But it's the scary element of it is when there's big groups of people. That's when it starts to freak me out, because not in a physical thing, but
no, I mean, for me, it's a physical thing too.
Right. And it's when it's that hive mind. It's almost as if, the need to fit into a group and to be accepted by others overpowers the understanding that people, regardless of their background or what their religion is or what their culture is, everybody's chasing the same thing. Everybody just wants to be in a cool spot with cool people with no fucking stress or worry. And it's like when you're...
Yeah, most religions are basically don't be a dick, right? But then you get extremists. Extremists will then misconstrue that for hate, essentially. They will use a message, they will use dogma, and they will use judgment in a way to scare people into bending to their will and exploiting it, essentially. But it's like us almost looking at the devil and saying he is inherently evil or innately evil, but without looking at the past and looking at what's caused that. It makes us just as bad if we do the same with religious people, really, because generally people are quite nice, and like you say, essentially everyone just wants to be able to have a roof over their head, to be comfortable, to not be in pain. But there's some people who have all of that, but they want more. They're greedy, and they will then use religion to exploit people.
Right. It's like I always think of that Christopher Hitchens quote where he mentions like how many people are actually praying for the character of Satan out of all of these hundreds and thousands of years of that storytelling. The one guy that, if you followed those ideals, the one guy that would be worthy of your empathy and prayer doesn't
Yeah,
get it
Mhm.
at all.
because he's evil.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I don't know, that story, like you were saying a minute ago, that story, his story of he's a fallen angel. So it's like there's a lot of stuff to unpack there.
Maybe Satan just had bad brain chemistry.
Maybe
Exactly.
or maybe or I've always looked at that story as like, like in a mythological sense, like God is his parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you mean I gotta stop? What do you mean I gotta love something else more than you? You're my parent. What the fuck, man?
God abused the fuck out of Satan, and that's why Satan becomes Satan.
Yeah, and it's like, well, whenever you look at that, then it's like, well, okay, man, maybe you're onto something. Maybe God is a dick. Maybe fuck that guy.
I mean, given the state of the world, it would make sense that God would be the dickhead, and Satan is the guy who's like, wait a minute, hold the fuck on. And God's like, no, get the fuck out of here. I'm going to give these kids cancer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and that is why Swedish death metal is the best death metal on the planet, because they're so fucking satanic. And it just, that's...
But yeah, I mean, if God
makes great art,
right? Like, Satan is just dealing with the symptoms of all the shit he's created that is fucked up.
Right?
Right.
So who's the bad guy here? The guy who created all the fucked up shit, or the guy who's like, you were susceptible to this fucked up shit that was created, so now you have to burn in hell. Right. It's just like, it's no logic.
Yeah. And why would we all burn in hell whenever we're all like-minded people there? It doesn't make any sense. No. We're all just going to end up listening to Slayer and having a fun time. So it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds better than Florida in 2024. So I don't think it's that bad.
It's the same fucking temperature.
Yeah, that won't change.
Surface of people, like, coming back to like horror films and stuff like that, you'd get some parents that would look at it and be like, oh my God, this stuff is evil. Like, you can't play violent video games and you can't, see blood in films. It will make you a terrible person. That's not what happens, man. Like, if someone's going to be a bad person and hurt something, they've got something innately wrong with them. It's not the stuff that they're watching that will suddenly turn them into a murderer or, a pedophile or whatever, or the worst people in society that we have. It's like, it's not the stuff that we watch and consume. It's it could be so many different things. Like,
but I think it's I think that's one of the reasons why so many people gravitate towards content and what the content of all of that is and how influential it can be, or at least they see it as that, because the idea that a serial killer or a mass murderer or whatever is just a normal person that can end up, anybody can end up that, just based off of a certain set of unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah.
The reality of that is fucking horrifying. To me, that's the scariest part.
Oh, I constantly am like, man, I am one massive head wound away from being a serial killer.
Yeah.
Look at head injuries. Exactly. That's a really good point. A fucking head injury.
Yeah. A head injury or lead poisoning.
Yeah.
There was a number of studies from violent offenders in the 80s that found that they had massive amounts of lead poisoning and brain damage because of lead poisoning. And it's like that's such a brutal like reality to think of.
There's an entire generation that's still alive that's the exact same way still.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, what the fuck? Why are we not even acknowledging that on a larger scale?
Like asbestos, the amount of building materials that had asbestos in it that would cause tumors in the brain and shit. Like, who's to say some of these psychological issues weren't to do with, the hippocampus or something being affected by a tumor or, or the amygdala being affected by, cancer or something. Like, who knows? Like,
absolutely.
100%. And then the technology is so shit that they just didn't even get to that idea.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially back then. And what's sad is like now you're stuck in a spot where in our current age where there is data to back up all of that. But again, I think it comes down to people at an individual level. I think that's why you see so much hate and arguing and just horrible comment sections on social media where I think everybody recognizes those problems exist, but so many people are consumed with arguing over the details of it because what if I, as an individual person, how am I going to fix that? It seems so big.
And so much of that is, I think, due to the nature of the internet now. Like everyone, it's so insular. You're so insulated, and you are one person interacting with a screen full of dickheads.
Yeah.
And you
forget
don't,
that they're people.
If you're fucking in that group of people, you'd be having a completely different conversation.
Completely.
You'd probably all get along on the same shit, but because you're by yourself, having these fucking thoughts that are like, oh, well, that's not what I believe. And it's like, no. If you had that thought in front of these people, you might say it, but you're going to get feedback on it.
Yeah.
And then
filter differently.
You filter differently.
Right.
And you're going to have a completely different, not necessarily justifying your behavior type of interaction.
Right.
And it's like,
why do you need to find common ground when you've essentially got an invisibility cloak? You can literally just say whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, and there's no repercussions. So your ego then goes insane.
And you're always going to have that bias that you're right.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
If you don't have extra information to fucking contradict that,
right? And it's not those back and forth interactions are not. It's not communicating.
No,
you're talking. It's just an argument.
You're stating a thing into a void, and then the void is responding to it.
Right,
and that's it.
You're just arguing with a void.
Yeah,
and it's like and what's scary about that is that gives you when you really look at it from that perspective, that gives you a much better understanding of where the vast majority of people are in their personal lives.
Yeah.
What head state they're in, what emotional state that they're in. And you can fill in the gap of why that is with a multitude of different reasons. And it really does give a good, deep, intimate insight into how just deeply unhappy so many people are. And that sucks.
And all they need to do is listen to death metal and watch horror movies.
Yeah. Just have, But it is.
For social media, especially, it's like
brutal.
It is like a horrible curse and a superpower because the internet, more broadly speaking, it gives us so much access to information and access to
absolutely,
people that we love or friendship groups or a sense of community, but also
look at this. This would not be fucking possible without the internet. We wouldn't even know that we existed.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a lot to thank for social media for meeting guys like you and just being able to make a living as a creative, man. I would be nothing without social media and without the internet, but it needs to be used with responsibility because it's just, look at how shit it's been lately because, this could be a whole other topic, but Meta and, the algorithm and
I was just about to bring that up.
Maximalism that has just ruined social media. There's just nothing social about it now. It's literally just dead internet with AI just talking to itself, and we're just there in the mix trying to still stay visible. It's fucking insane.
Yeah. It's, looking at just how these apps and these social media platforms have changed in the way that they operate just within the past year.
Yeah.
Not like within the past 5 years, it might as well be a different fucking reality.
I highly recommend listening to the podcast Better Offline, especially the ones about the rot economy. It explains why everything is this way. And it's 100% just make the number go up. Why are we not making the number go up? And it's the number doesn't have to keep going up.
Yeah.
You can just make sure that the product is good.
Right. And that's what I was getting ready to kind of go into. I'm glad you said that because I think that new app that just came out a couple weeks ago, well, I think it's been out, but everybody tried to jump to it. Kara, whatever it's called.
I tried it as well. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about that situation was everybody jumped to that, and within the quarter of, or within the span of like a weekend, And I remember looking at the posts from the guy or the woman. I'm not sure who owns it, but the creator of that app was talking about on, I think it was on X or Threads, where they were like, "Holy shit! Thank you all. This is incredible. I'm paying for this app out of my pocket, and we're just a small team of programmers and developers. This is incredible." Fast forward to 2 weeks later, and the people or the company that they buy server space from sent them their bill essentially, and it was like $100,000 fucking dollars because it accumulated so much space that's their overage charge. So it's like, okay, well, when you look at it from a purely business standpoint, how the fuck do you pay for that level of server space to house that many users when your platform doesn't generate money?
Yeah.
You can't. Nobody's going to invest and spend that much money per month if they're not going to get their money back. So when you look at that, it's like, well, that's okay. Now you understand why so many platforms like TikTok and Instagram and all these companies have to have paid advertisement on their platform in order to pay for it. However, that shouldn't mean that every content creator on your fucking app no longer has access to any of their followers.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, paid advertising, I'm not against it.
It's just marketing.
It's just marketing. Like, that's a required aspect of capitalism.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, capitalism should just burn and die. But considering that we're stuck in it,
it is what it is
at the moment. Like, it's just a part of it. But
I mean, what we both do
also,
as a business, we're benefiting from capitalism in a socialist way. Because it's not like it's not about greed for us. It's not all about money. It's about passion, right? But without capitalism, we wouldn't be able to make a profit and then put more money into the next product, right? And I wouldn't be able to have
That's the thing. I don't want to be rich. I want to have enough money to make movies.
Exactly. But you can see why Zuckerberg and the like have a monopoly on data. It's because they are the only people that can afford to house that much information.
Right.
So everything else just falls by the wayside. And human creatives now as well, because they've seen how AI can just automate everything now. So all you need to do is pay for a tick on Twitter, pay for a tick on Instagram, and all they will do is get AI bots to comment on your stuff and push your stuff onto the feed of other people. Like, I barely see followers of mine on my feed anymore. It's literally sponsored fucking ads. Same with Facebook now as well. I don't see any friends. It's all sponsored fucking content. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, going into the psychological repercussions of all of that, it's, dude, when you post a piece of art or a reveal and, you have any amount of followers, like whether it's a couple hundred followers or, tens of thousands of followers, when you only get 0.01% of your people liking it or commenting on it,
what's the fucking point?
You immediately, it's impossible as a human being because you will always have an emotional reaction because of how 100%. We are all wired. You are always going to have an emotional reaction at the very beginning before logic ever has a chance to come into play.
100%.
So when you get so excited and there's so many hours of work and so much money invested into creating something and then you post it in 100 likes. Yeah. And it's like, do I just suck? Did we suck? Does other people suck? Like, that's the thing. What is the problem?
You already have imposter syndrome anyway.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah.
So then, to then get to a level where people are starting to respect your work and you're getting a certain amount of just comfortability with your work and knowing you've got your fans there, loyal fans, they're always commenting and stuff, and you've got a network and a community of people, like you're actually interacting with these people and it's like this catharsis. To have that and it just be like tumbleweeds. It's so fucking depressing. Even I was depressed like a couple of weeks ago because this whole AI thing, the new the data terms on Instagram, where they basically says they can basically do whatever they want with your data. So I objected to it, And this is anecdotal, so it might not be a direct result of it, but I noticed all my posts were fucking bombing, 100%. And it was making me think that my work was sucking. I was like saying to my missus, I'm going to quit art. I'm literally going to quit and get a job. And she was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, this is not you. This is the algorithm. This is the capitalist maximalism, era of social media. It's not you. It's not what you do as a creative. It's just we've just got to ride it out, I suppose, and just see if it gets any better.
I think that's
cultivate a sense of community. Like this, what we're doing right now. This is what I love about it, is because we're shooting the shit and we're just hanging out. It's not just about likes and it's not just about followers.
Right.
It's because we're passionate about this stuff,
And I think a huge thing that I've noticed is that when doing stuff on Instagram, like we get interaction and stuff. It's but like not nearly as much as we get if we go to a horror convention. And here's the thing. I feel like we barely have any fans in Florida. Like when we started doing conventions, I was like, no one's buying stuff in Florida. No one's going to come out. And it's fucking hundreds of people. It's more people than we get. It's more interaction than we get on fucking Instagram. And we're like, this is crazy. And once again, showing the importance of in-person community. You know what I mean? Like, I think
it's also
the future shit is gonna be offline. It has to be.
Oh yeah,
because there's no way that this isn't sustainable.
Yeah, eventually people are going to either people like us are going to miss what it is like to connect with people in person.
Already do,
or people, younger generations, are going to grow up in such a disconnected world where when they enter into arenas where there is connection, they're going to go, what the fuck? That's what I've been missing?
Dude,
I need to seek that out.
I'm single. Dating now is a fucking nightmare because how do you meet somebody? How the fuck do you meet? Like,
it terrifies me, dude. I've been with my partner for 10 years. And when we were first seeing each other, Tinder had only just come out. So that now there's a whole generation of people of just having dating on an app. And all it is swiping left and swiping right. It's insane.
And here's the even more insane thing. Like, I'm on Tinder. I kind of look around and shit. But, like, it's almost all fucking AI bots now.
That's so
like
fucking
I've seen
weird.
like hundreds of ladies named Lali, Lali, and it's all different pictures. And I've never met a single fucking person named Lali.
That's so funny.
And they're all Asian too. And I'm like, I know enough about like names and stuff from different regions that like that's not an Asian name.
But to go back to what you were saying about how you felt with the algorithm of you thinking about quitting art or whatever, I think I think that's why it's so important to approach anything you do with a personal level of fulfillment, where it has to be done in a sense of, I'm doing this for myself to fulfill something in myself, whether that is it's a compulsive need to create or compulsive need to see something through or to build something for your own personal reasons. And that might sound selfish. I don't mean it in a selfish way. I don't mean to like take advantage of other people.
Not at all. Here's the thing. But listening to everyone that we look up to, that's what they did to become successful. They followed their fucking passions and and people respected it.
Yeah, because it's and everybody's human. So whether you go about it and with that pursuit in mind or not, you're still going to feel the sting of 60 people liked my stuff.
Yeah.
Fuck, I suck. But if you're going about it in the correct way, I think that over time, the amount of feedback that you will get, the amount of people that you will meet, like in this situation of what we're doing right now, like you said, those encounters make up for all of that self-doubt that the grind and the system of what we're all stuck in makes you feel. Yeah. So it's 100%. In order to approach and do any of that, it's like you have to know yourself. You have to that's like the requirement is in order to do anything like this, it has to start with how well you know yourself, what your interests are, what your passions are, what your loves, and where your even the negative parts about yourself, because you have to recognize all that self-doubt is just a part of you, which is very human and what we all go through. You have to be able to know that exists to ride that wave of self-doubt and bullshit
100%.
that
This is why
everything
I'm
makes you
still
feel.
doing it, you know. This is why I look at stuff like followers and likes and I realize I don't really care about that stuff. I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
You know, it could all go tomorrow and I'd be like, oh, well, that's crap. But I will still, after a while, maybe a bit of a grace period, I will pick up my pencil and I will draw something because I love it. I'm not doing it because of money or anything, really. I'm doing it because it's like you say, it's like it satisfies my soul, as cringe and as cliche as that sounds. You know, it's a cathartic thing for me. It really does. Like I will never not read a comic. I will never not watch a film. So like, you know, it's just all likes and it's all like vanity metrics as well. Like, you know, likes and followers and stuff. But yeah, man.
Real quick, because we usually do a fade out. Do you want to plug the tattoo shop that you work at?
I'd probably just rather just plug my own work in general because tattoos have been quite quiet lately, and the tattoo studio is not. It's not like in the city or anything, and I'm still building it up as something. So I'd rather just plug my own sort of stuff because that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing a specific style of tattoos. I'm basically just doing my stuff as a tattoo artist. So. So just Shindy Design, Shindy Reehal. You know, just look me up. I'm everywhere, even on Kara.
go ahead and spell it for our people that.
Sure. So Shindy is SHINDY design.
Yeah. Real quick though, what you were saying a minute ago of you know, even just give it a little bit of time, you'll still pick up your pen. Like why are you doing what you're doing and all of that. It's like I think for myself and I think with James too, it's existing it, like, to kind of bring it back full circle when we were talking about at the beginning of this episode of working shit jobs and knowing that is just not for me or not for any creative person. It's so soul sucking and just crushing that kind of reality in those environments. I think for us it kind of boils down to like the anger and hate that breeds of like, that is so much of why we have to exist in those environments, is just to try and survive. Like, this reality is so weird and that's what we have to deduce our time to doing is stocking shelves.
If I'm gonna go gray over being stressed out, I'd rather at least we're doing something cool and fun and like interesting.
100%,
right?
100%.
Yeah. And it's like the momentum that builds from just the rage of like, fuck you, I'm not going to go do that. I'm this system sucks, but I'm not going to go do it. Like, I know that sucks and that is so difficult to navigate, but yeah, I think that's I think that's one of the bigger reasons as to why all of these things have been pushed so hard to build anything. So to see like somebody who's doing your caliber of work run into those same things, hopefully anybody who listens to this or anybody who sees your post, like, you're not alone. Because it fucking sucks.
Dude.
Yeah, dude.
It's an occupational hazard at the end of the day, of being an artist and being a creative. It just is. But all I can say to people out there is just, things take time. Just don't give up. Just keep doing it. And if you're passionate about something, you will and have to excel at it because you're passionate about it. If it's just about likes and followers and money, you're never going to get anywhere because that stuff isn't permanent. That stuff is not. It's temporary. Whereas passion and flesh and all that sort of stuff and your soul, that is eternal. So just focus on that stuff, man. Like, focus on the people around you and the things that give you happiness. in your day to day. Like that's what you need to focus on. There's a lot of stuff out there that's not great at the moment, you know, like the algorithm and politics and all that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
that's what makes stuff like horror films and music and art that much more important, because without that, we would just be robots. That's all we would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's the perfect
wise
spot
words.
there. Yeah.
Wise words from a bunch of weird metalhead dudes with beards. Yeah. So cool.
Hell yeah.
Life lessons mixed in with horrific gore and content.
That's what we at the Creep-O-Rama podcast bring.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, two of us have beards. You have some stubble.
Very thick stubble. Come on,
a killer jawline.
Killer jawline. Hey.
And a killer jawline, dude.
That's why I have the beard. I have no jaw.